Thank you for joining us. Welcome, everyone. Congratulations again on your admission to UC Berkeley. If I have not told you that yet in person this weekend or in our webinar last week, my name is Nicole McIntyre, and I am the Manager of Transfer Success Initiatives for the College of Engineering. And I am going to ask our lovely panelists to introduce themselves, including name, pronouns, major, year, and your community college. So I'll put that in the chat because I know that's a lot. But Paolo is in my top left. So let's start with Paolo and then we'll move over to Lucy.
All right. Did you put it in the chat? Oh, there you go. Hi, everyone. My name is Paulo. I go by the he, him, his pronouns. I am a civil and environmental engineering major. I am a second year. I'll be graduating in this upcoming fall, and I went to Moore Park College.
Thank you. Lucy?
Yeah, hi. I'm Lucy. I'm a junior transfer in electrical engineering and computer science, so EECS as we call it, or possibly a materials minor. And then I just transferred in 2 semesters ago, so finishing up my first year. And I went to multiple colleges, but all around the Bay Area. So I've been here for a little while.
Thank you. Miriam?
Hi, everyone. My name is Miriam. I use the she, her, hers pronouns. My major is bioengineering. I'm a senior, but I'll be graduating this upcoming fall in December. And my community college is Santa Monica College, so I'm from SoCal.
And finally, Steve.
Hello, everyone. My name is Steve Foyon. I'm a senior here studying electrical engineering and computer science, and I went to Harvard College in SoCal.
Awesome. Thank you. So we got Bay Area representation, SoCal representation. Lucy is our voice of the first year student who's been fully in person, whereas Miriam, Steve, and Paolo started a year previously remotely. And I'm going to start by asking, and you don't all have to answer this, but I'm going to ask some questions while we wait for the Q&A to get popping. So my first question is, why did you all choose to come to UC Berkeley versus the other schools you got into? Go ahead, Miriam.
So first of all, it's like the #1 public institution, which we all know. And second of all, since living in SoCal, I did want like a change of scenery. So the Bay Area seemed enticing. And of course, like hearing about all the research opportunities, like we have so many different types of labs here, as well as LBNL, which is the Lawrence Berkeley National Lab. It's called the Hill, Up the Hill, they refer to it as. So yeah, those are some of the reasons, and also the diversity. And basically the Bay Area is like where things happen. There are so many startups right now. There was this Baker Bioengineering Hub that was just inaugurated this past week, where it's like a facility for startups and for research to happen to be combined together. So those are some great reasons to come to UC Berkeley.
Yeah, and going off what Miriam said, I have a very similar experience with Miriam. I'm also from SoCal, and something that mom has always told me to do is just kind of go out there and see what's out there. So home is always LA, and I always know my family's there. But in the meantime, while I'm still young and not tied down, I'm just gonna see as much as the California or the world I can, as well as Berkeley's like the perfect location, in my opinion, or the Bay in general. If you like to do like a lot of outdoor things, we were just talking about backpacking. There's a bunch of backpacking trails near the Bay. Point Reyes is beautiful. Tahoe's 3 hours out. If you like to snowboard or ski, I like to do that during the winter break. As well as Yosemite is about 4 hours out, and you got Big Sur. So there's just so many possibilities for you to do as much as you want out here.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've been in the Bay Area for a while, so I actually wanted to leave the area, and I really wanted to not go to Berkeley and go somewhere outside of California. But yeah, looking like one of the things that was really important for me was the engineering department itself, and what projects people are working on, and what research is being done. And one thing that UC Berkeley does have is a really strong history in like open source software and a lot of like community focused engineering, which I don't see at a lot of other technical schools, which was really cool. And another thing that I think was really important for me was financial, because for Berkeley, one other thing that Berkeley does is it does fund a lot of projects. It funds it funds a lot of undergraduate students. If you want to do research, if you want to do all kinds of things, which is limited at some other schools. At the same time, there are hurdles to jump to, like housing. If you choose Berkeley, make sure you look at housing in advance to make sure you don't end up paying, $2,000 per month or something like that. So yeah, it's give and take.
Yeah, going off that, for me, mine was a little more conventional. I just knew Berkeley was a great school, and I wanted to go to Berkeley. I wanted to leave LA because I was in LA. I didn't want something that was close to home, but I can definitely say that looking back, I think Berkeley has offered me much more than I thought I would get by going to Berkeley. So, yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. Steve, while we're on you, I'm going to ask you, what is the best part of being a Berkeley student? What are those things that you didn't expect?
Well, first of all, I didn't expect the tight support that I would get from, being a student. I just thought I was just going to come and everyone is going to be trying to do things for themselves. And, it's just going to be so super competitive that I would really have to just, do everything by myself. But the support that I've gotten from the school is in many different ways is really exceptional. And also, I've had a lot of research opportunities, a lot of opportunities to engage in many different programs on campus that are, I didn't even think I would be able to do that. And they're pretty open to get as many people as possible. I've made a lot of connections here that I didn't know I would, and some professors are actually really cool here. So yeah, those are some of the things, but definitely I've gotten a lot from my stay here.
Thank you. Anybody else want to share the best part of being a Berkeley engineer?
Or something that surprised me was everyone talks about the Berkeley network kind of thing, but it's really true. Just going on LinkedIn, being able to reach out to alumni, they're so eager and willing to help you out. And I've done coffee chats with people I just messaged on LinkedIn multiple times. So I definitely think the Berkeley network and the whole alumni network is great.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've noticed that too. Yeah, especially when before transferring, there was it was sometimes difficult to talk to recruiters because they're not in an official 4-year university, so their system isn't set up to recruit you. But now all I have to do is hey, by the way, I'm from Berkeley. Do you want to chat about X? And people listen, and I don't know if it's a good or bad thing, but it is real that Berkeley does carry that. And yeah, the community is really great. I thought, especially in engineering, I thought that, it's going to be giant. I won't know anyone, in one of my classes, for example, we have 2,000 students. But then you go to office hours and it's always the same 5 people who show up. You go to these events and, it's always Nicole, Tiffany, Marvin facilitating everything. And it's always the same few faces that are always super engaged. And so you really get to know that specific subset of people, and the campus becomes a lot more smaller than I ever imagined it could be.
Echoing what others have said as well. The alumni network is quite strong, as well as they definitely help you with opportunities and answer all your questions, and they definitely like, even though they've graduated or they've gone to grad school, they do like keep in touch and like answer all your questions. So it's very, although it's a huge school, but a lot of people do help out, and it's quite a collaborative environment that when you're going in, you wouldn't exactly expect. But yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, what about like the hardest, most challenging part of your experience as a Berkeley engineer? Miriam, do you have anything that comes to mind?
Sure. I think imposter syndrome was one I struggled with a lot. So my experience is a bit different than what you all would have. I started off online, so it was a little bit isolating, but after I actually connected with a lot of other transfer students, and then when we could, like, you already have that connection that you're a transfer student, so you have a lot to relate to. So, and we basically echoed to one another that we have to remind ourselves that Berkeley chose you and that you do belong here. So I did have like struggled with that a little bit at the beginning, but I definitely have come to terms with it and have immensely enjoyed my time here, so much so that I could actually graduate right now, but I'm staying another semester. But yeah, imposter syndrome is something I think a lot of people go through, but you have to always remind yourself that Berkeley chose you and you belong here.
And I'll highlight that Miriam is a mentor for incoming transfer students. So, unfortunately, it is rampant in all levels. I've heard of professors having imposter syndrome, grad students, but you're absolutely right. We chose students for a reason. Anyone else?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes, like for me, I would say in the beginning, like the transition was really hard because we were doing it online, and I couldn't, I didn't have the avenue to make as many connections, as possible, and I couldn't like get a lot of support. I didn't have like a support group like I do now, so it was a little bit more challenging. But as time went by, I kind of found my group of people who I communicate with a lot more, and that definitely helped me. Sometimes the workload can be hard, but like for example, if you take too many classes, and you're doing like a lot on the side, it can be hard. So I think that might have been the hardest thing for me, was like being sane while going through all, like so many classes and so many things going on. So
Yeah, I was going to say something similar. I mean, in addition of echoing everything that was said, time management is very different for Berkeley. I mean, before I would not have ever scheduled 20 hours for a single homework assignment. And that's just not a pacing that I was expecting. But here, like, there are classes that do expect you to really be a part-time job taking that class. And it's different, and you have to, everyone says, for your first semester, don't do too many texts, don't commit to too many things. And that's hard to resist. But once you realize how big of a commitment everything is, and like how many opportunities there are, yeah, it becomes difficult to time manage. That's for sure.
Paolo, do you want to wrap up?
Yeah, I think everyone did a good job hitting all the spots, definitely with the imposter syndrome and the time management. And then just like, if you're not familiar with the Bay, moving out here, just being in a new environment, it's always challenging at first. But it's really amazing people here, and it does become like home. So
Awesome. Thank you. We've got a question that's specific to you, Paolo, but I'm going to open it up as my final question to everyone is, what other advice would you have for a new transfer student who is planning to move here in August and start their time at Berkeley? Anyone can feel free to answer that.
definitely engage in things that can open you up to meeting new people. Yeah, and the right people. Yeah. So yeah, and keep the focus the drive that you had while coming in throughout your time in the college, and be open to meeting even professors. Like, go to office hours and just ask them what they're doing. Try to like just break their brains, because while we're studying here in school and taking all these classes, really you're getting out after that. So you want to know where you're going after that and how to navigate that. And if you don't start early, like trying to reach out to professors or just know what is going on, you might get a little press in the end to, say, for example, find a research opportunity or find an internship or something like that.
Yeah, and going off as you said, definitely getting involved, whether it be through like clubs or organizations, whether it be like becoming a tutor or a mentorship program, just getting yourself involved. There's so many opportunities here at Cal, and that's really the best way to get yourself inside the community, as well as like learn from others. And like Steve said, like getting to know like certain people that can help you, like writing a letter of rec. So a lot of opportunities come when you just throw yourself and get involved in anything you can.
Lucy, Miriam, any other advice for new transfers?
I think I mentioned this, but connecting with other transfers, we actually, like my batch of transfers, like BioE, we actually made a whole group chat on Messenger, and we all still keep in contact. We haven't actually all met at the same time in person, but definitely like you can't exactly relate to a freshman person who started from freshman year. So definitely like reaching out to other transfers and having a group of people you can relate to and who are on the same journey as you, because your experience will be a little different from others. And also joining clubs. I was a candidate this semester in the Honor Society, so that was a great experience to be involved in. I learned a lot about networking and how alumni are actually involved, or even professors are involved in some clubs. And like Stephen mentioned, office hours are super important, especially when you have like huge classes like Lucy's been in 2,000 people. You can meet a lot of people who are like-minded because they're going to office hours just like you, and getting close to the professor and learning about their research opens up many opportunities, and especially like letters of rec, which most people do need later on. But yeah, just put yourself out there, and you'll be able to open a lot of doors that way.
Yeah, I think all of that is really good advice. And yeah, message also Discord. I think I'm in maybe 40 servers, because every single club has their own server. So even if you're not in the club, you can look at like, oh, what projects are they doing? And maybe you're interested in the future. And then every single class has at least one unofficial Discord server. And then sometimes official ones, for example, like some of the official staff for the class will actually do remote support sessions. And then there's also, there's like a transfer Uc Discord community, and there's a general STEM at Berkeley community. And there's just a lot of different communities, and it's just a matter of figuring out like, okay, what do you personally want? What do you want to get out of your experience? And then, finding the more specialized groups and opportunities for you, because otherwise there's just so much, it's easy to drown in it.
Thank you. It sounds like an important part is also managing your notifications, because that's a lot of people blowing up your phone.
I put all of those on mute.
So we've got two questions in the chat about favorite classes. One about favorite classes within Berkeley, and within the College of Engineering, and one about useful classes outside of the college. So I'm going to combine those and ask you together, best classes you've taken during your time at Berkeley, And then I'm also going to ask you to put them in the chat, because we have a habit at Berkeley of saying EE16B and no one knows what that means. So putting it in the chat so that folks can read it and write it down and remember in 6 months when they're enrolling in their spring classes. So I'm going to start with you, Paolo. Best or most useful classes that you have taken during your 4 semesters at Berkeley.
Yeah, so I'll start with my engineering related class. I think the class that I'm taking right now, I could put it in the chat. Yeah, of course. CE 167, which is a project management class. So I'm interested in more construction and civil engineering. So knowing about like the finances, different contract types, more of like the business administration side of a project, what goes into it before it starts constructing. And then I also enjoyed, I don't know what the number of this class was outside of college engineering, but it was international environmental politics. I just chose that class by random, and I really enjoyed it just because I never like thought how political the environment actually is, and how like each country itself, like really at the end of the day, they just care about themselves and not really the environment. So, but at the same time, like some developed countries already did all these bad things, and now they're telling other people not to do these things, even though they already did it. So it was very interesting. I never really thought of it, and it opened my mind a lot.
Thank you. Anyone else?
For me, for me, for EECS, so Electrical Engineering and Computer Science, one of the lower div classes that I really enjoyed was CS61C. I'm going to put that in the chat as well. And one of the upper div classes that I enjoyed was CS161. So that's like computer security. And I like that one because it's not too like overwhelming like some of the other classes, but it's really like you actually learn a lot from the class. And there was a machine learning class as well that I liked. So those 3 classes are kind of like my best so far. I haven't taken any class outside of the College of Engineering that I liked, because I've taken only 2 and I didn't like them. So yeah.
Okay, moving over to Miriam.
So a favorite engineering class of mine is actually the one I just took this semester, and I just had the final today before this. So it's BioE 101. It's a bioinstrumentation class, like particularly biomedical devices. So it's also like an EE type class, electrical engineering type class. The reason I loved it was because like the professor was really passionate about his work and about us learning like the practical side of things. Usually some classes could go like a little bit in theory. So he basically bridged the gap between theory and practical. We literally did a final project to create a biomedical device and basically learn how to be an engineer and learn about the difficulties that one's face and how it's quite tedious and really difficult to bring a product, and how many iterations and how many designs you have to go through. So even as students, we just had like a little bit of insight of how difficult that is. So it was a very enlightening class, and like you learn a lot, and you can read spec sheets that most people would find gibberish, and at the end of the semester you understand a lot of the things within there. So yeah, that was a really good class. Another class I enjoyed was my ethics class, BioE 100. It's taught by Dorian. He's one of the founders of bioengineering and department here. If when you come to Berkeley, you'll know him as the guy with a really big dog. You'll see him. Everyone, it's all over Reddit or the internet. Everyone knows him as a guy with the big dog. So the reason I like that class was we are actually connected to so many different engineering majors, like a lot of different engineering majors took the class. It was a very interactive class. It wasn't one where you're just sitting and listening to a lecture and like going home. So we did a lot of case studies and since it's an ethics class, like it's very important for engineers to understand the rules and regulations and how to be ethical. So we basically would discuss each other's perspectives and it was online, it was in breakout rooms, but I still really enjoyed it. So we went over business ethics, IT ethics, and of course, engineering, medicine. So it was a really cool class, and you get to hear a lot of different perspectives that you wouldn't like have of your own. And it's sometimes like a way to also broaden your mind that other, like seeing other perspectives. So yeah, that was also a really good class. And one of our favorites. Yeah, I also haven't taken any other classes outside of engineering besides that.
Awesome. Thank you.
Nicole, can I quickly add that although I haven't taken a class outside of engineering, there's one I want to take, I'm thinking of taking, which is the Jacobs design and innovation class, which is pretty practical for someone who wants to like leverage like what you've learned and try to build something that you can see and touch and like play with. So that's actually a good one. I think I haven't taken it yet though. So
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to move along and ask Lucy. For the EECS major, I've been hearing that it's overcrowded. Lucy, what has your experience been in the last year trying to find space in classes and scheduling those?
Yeah, sure. I mean, for the previous question, I think I just made a list since I think everyone else said a bunch of them. So I'll post that. Then for EECS classes specifically, yeah, it is true that we do have a lot of difficulties with it right now. I mean, honestly, especially right now, we do have a sort of funding crisis. And so there's been like lecturer strikes, and a lot of the TAs aren't getting, fantastic treatment. So there are difficulties with it that I think like someone should know about if that's the major you're going to. But at the same time, it's not as bad as I thought it would be. So as I said, you might have, 2,000, 1,000 people in your very first classes, but if you go to office hours, right, it's only going to be 5 people. So you can actually talk to your really famous professor who has a startup and who worked in industry for however many years, like one-on-one, and like that really helps because a lot of people don't take advantage of that. And for scheduling as well, in your lower division courses, you get priority. So you usually don't have to worry about that unless you decide to leave those courses for your senior year. For upper division courses, for most of them, the class sizes do become much smaller. It's like there's some that are only like 20 people or so. So it becomes easier, but you do have to plan out your classes carefully. And yeah, we do camp out with our laptops waiting for the specific second that signups open up for our section. So that is true. I gotta admit it, but I'd say it's very doable. And yeah.
also transfer students get priority for classes, I guess. Right, Nicole?
Yeah. Typically, students get priority to the classes in their major because we've made an obligation to you, right, to help you graduate on time. So the EECS classes are much harder to get into if you're a English major or maybe a bioengineering major trying to take those classes. But we definitely give priority to our own students at the time they're expected to be taking the class. So to Lucy's point, if you waited until your senior year to take first year courses, you're no longer going to have priority. But the classes are structured in a way to make sure you get what you need to graduate. All right, Steve, I'm going to switch over to you. Steve, would you recommend someone bring their car to campus? And how bad is traffic and parking?
If I tell you to bring your car, then I'm gonna get competition for spots. but but it's definitely. I mean, I bring my car to campus, so it's definitely something you can do. The thing is, the parking structure here is a little tricky. So if you want to have like on-campus parking, then you have to like leave a couple of miles outside of the radius of the school. So I think it's like 3 miles outside of the school radius. But if you don't leave like that far from school, you can also just park around the campus. If you're an engineering major, it's easier because you can park in north side, like a couple of blocks away from like the halls where you are. Sometimes it's tricky to find parking, but I have never like had to go back home because I haven't found parking. The worst would probably be for me to like park 3 blocks away from the actual block where I am. Like that's probably the worst. But usually I just find it maybe the next block or so. But yeah, it's possible to bring to, especially if you, I would say if you're just gonna be going to campus, like here at the university, I don't see really the importance if you get a place around the university that you can bike to school. That would be easier for you. Definitely be more convenient. But if you're gonna have to use your car to go somewhere else outside of school on a regular basis, then like myself, I use my car. I have my car because I go to other places on a regular basis. But yeah, in that case, I would say bring your car. There's no harm in that. But if you're just around the campus and you're not really going outside of there, just I mean, it'd be more beneficial to like bike to campus.
One thing I don't think Steve mentioned is where he parks is 2-hour parking. So, and they do ticket inconsistently, but you never know when it's going to happen. So there are many times I've been with Steve and he goes, I need to move my car. And so if you're hoping to have a 12-hour study session on campus, you're going to be running back and forth, stretching your legs to move your car. I think also it depends on the housing, right? Like some places will charge you an extra $150, $200 for a parking spot where you live. A lot of places don't come with parking. So it depends.
Or you can do get a parking pass for the city. It's like $60 a year. But then you got to be careful about street sweeping days. I get screwed on those.
And to do that, your car has to be registered and insured at your address, which for some people who like maybe their parents officially insure their car can be more difficult.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, moving along. I'm with Steve. Don't bring your car. Don't compete with me for a parking spot. Darren asks, how many classes are too many? Is it a good idea to take less classes to start and then ramp up? It's open to anyone.
Actually, Lucy, you can go for it.
No, that's one piece of advice that everyone gave me when I was transferring in. Like, don't do it. Don't take more than 2 techs. And I thought, well, how bad can it really be, right? And yeah, so Berkeley techs are way different than other courses I've ever taken. And as I mentioned before, it isn't about like how intelligent you are or how talented you are, anything about that. It's about time management and how many hours you have in a week. And so when you schedule your classes, don't think like, oh, this subject looks easy, I'll probably fine. Look at the actual like time spent on each assignment in that class. And there's classes like websites like Berkeley Time, which I wish I knew about, which actually like list off the distributions, like information on exams for different professors, different years. So you can look at that and base it off that. But yes, specifically like number of classes for techs, it is better to do less because if anything, thank you for the link. It's in the chat, Nicole posted. For techs, I would advise taking less. And then if you really do feel like you're flying through it, you can always commit to more things. You can always do clubs, You can talk to your professor after class, maybe even do research that semester. It's all doable, especially as transfers. But yeah, it's better to undercommit and overdeliver than overcommit and then underdeliver. That's been my motto that I'm trying to hold up.
Yeah, my roommate took 4 techs and 1 HSS. And I didn't see him the whole semester. Let's just put it at that. So you definitely can take as much class as you want, but you just might lose your sanity a bit.
I agree with what the others have said. I think you know yourself best, but it's probably better to start off with less text or as they call STEM courses. Like I've actually heard of someone doing 20 units and they're handling it. So everyone is different. But as for your first semester, I'd probably advise just starting off with a less heavy course load, and like Lucy mentioned, like over delivering is better than under delivering, and also using that time to like join clubs and seek out research opportunities and such. And also like when you start school in the fall, it's also recruiting season, so maybe you want to look into applying for your upcoming summer internship. So that would be my advice.
I'm going to officially underscore everything they said. I'll also say, people say they're taking 20 units, but you never know how they're really doing. And yeah, people get themselves in trouble by jumping in too intensely, and it's hard to come back from that, especially if your confidence maybe takes a little bit of a blow, which is another reason that I discourage students from taking summer classes before they transfer. I'm going to move along and ask if folks retook any classes that they got credit for at community college. So a common example in the EECS world is data structures. Some students get credit from 61B, but I know there's examples in other majors. How did folks navigate that decision?
For me, I took data structures in community college, but I decided to still take it, like just take the whole class. I know some students do a bridge course, which is like they take something less something less intense for maybe 1 credit instead of 4, just so they can like satisfy the requirement without actually taking the full class. But I found out that I learned a lot more taking the class than I did, like taking the class again, than I did at community college. So I would definitely recommend that if you're not sure that you really did a good job in the class at community college, just go ahead and retake it, instead of like taking a bridge class or something like that. If you're pretty sure you're really good at the class, then I would say talk to your advisor, and they can probably guide you in a better way. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. I'm going to switch it over to upper divisions. I see that Miriam's already typing out an answer, but we've got 2 questions kind of. What does an upper division class look like? How big is it? Are they curved? What should I expect once I get through these introductory courses? I'm going to start with Paolo. What about in civil and environmental?
For civil environmental, class sizes for your upper division courses will vary from I think the smallest class I had was 25. Whilst the biggest class I had was 60 to 80, I'd say. Unless you're taking a data science course, then that course gets to 1200. But in the Department of Civil and Environmental Engineering, the upper divisions are pretty chill. You have opportunities be close to the professor, talk to him. Office hours aren't crazy, packed like some of the CIS classes are. And Was there another question I was supposed to answer?
Are they curved for you?
Oh, it depends on the class. So if the class overall does well, then it won't be curved. But if the class is struggling, then they'll curve it.
Awesome. Miriam, what about in bioengineering?
The smallest class size I've been in is like 25 people, but I think next semester I might even be in a class size which is like 14 people only. It's also sometimes you have graduate students, PhD students, and master's students, so the class size could actually be like 30, like 2 undergrad to 1 grad student ratio. Curving, I think, like Paulo mentioned, I think we have the same thing. Like if the class did not do that well, then they might curve. But I've never had a class where they curve negatively, like and a 95 is now a B or something. I've never seen that. But so it's not that competitive as people or exaggerated as people make it out to be.
And finally, Steve, how big have your upper divs been over in EECS?
Okay. Yeah. So it really depends on the size of the class, or sorry, the actual demand for the class. I have been in some classes that are, say, 40 people, 40, 45 people. Like my signal processing class right now is like 45 people. But when you go to like another class that is really, sought after for, like a class that is sought after, like the machine learning class, for example, is probably around 300 students. So it depends on the class, but most of them are not like crazy in terms of the size. Averagely, it would probably be around less than 100 students.
Awesome. Thank you. I'm going to ask you 2 more questions and then let you get back to studying for final. Do you all have advice for choosing professors? Does it matter? Are some good? Should I ask around? Do I even have an option which professor I take? And maybe I'll start over in EECS with Steve and Lucy.
Yeah. So for choosing professors, definitely ask students who have taken the class already. There's many students who have taken the classes. For lower div classes, where you probably, would not really have the luxury of choosing a professor, because I mean, it's, you either take it or you have to wait 1 semester for, like for another, which you don't have the luxury for. I would say develop relationships with senior students, like maybe a mentor or something that who would know people who have taken the class or have taken the class themselves, and they would give you like a good advice on taking the class.
And just to reiterate, for those introductory courses, you typically don't have a choice because you're taking them when you're taking them, right? You're going to take 61A so that you can take 61B. So if John De Niro or Paul Hilfinger is taking it, you're going to take it with that professor. What about in civil, environmental, and bioengineering? Do you all pick your professors? How do you do the research?
Berkeley time, I guess. Yeah, I think you kind of just stuck with the professor they're teaching it that semester, and if you want to move on to the next course, you kind of just have to take their class. But definitely you ask around, like Steve said, get to know like some of the senior like transfer students, see what their experiences were like, and of course, like ask them for past exams and assignments, because those are always helpful.
For the bio department, we are on our website. We actually have a tentative multi-year schedule of what professors are teaching which class. So for some like upper classes, upper division classes, like it's fixed that this professor teaches all the time. But for others, like there are multiple professors, so you could plan ahead for which professors. And of course, definitely asking upperclassmen about how their experience was in those classes and how their teaching style was is always recommended. And one note I wrote in the chat is that a C in front of the course number is cross-listed. I found this out after I enrolled in in the summer when I was transferring, when I was adding classes. So like a class offered by the bio department may also be in the material science department, but it's the same class. And there's like this other class that is like in the bio department. It's like C165. It's a medical imaging class, but it's also in the electrical engineering class, electrical engineering department. So they have a C in front. So basically it's like, if you don't get the class in bio E, you could add it in material science. So just a little tip for that.
We'll also explain why you see a course with the exact same title in two different departments. You're actually in the same room.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Awesome. Okay, final question for you all. Outside of the major specific, did any of you do T-Prep over the summer? So that's the transfer pre-engineering program. The application is now open, and I will put the link in the chat, but did any of you all do it? And for you, what were the pros and or cons of participating?
Yeah, I did T-Prep. My experience with T-Prep is going to be a lot different experience than you guys' since ours was done virtually and you guys will be doing it in person. So the pros, I would say, it's just having that, starting that community here in Berkeley. Going into your classes, already knowing people, whether they be in your major or outside of your major, just knowing someone there was really, really helpful for me, especially during Zoom. Cons, honestly, the only con I have was that it was online and it was through Zoom, so it was kind of hard to stay focused, but definitely in person, it'll be a lot more engaging.
Yeah, I was in T-Prep as well. And I can't say anything bad since Nicole was here, but just kidding. But I think it actually was a super helpful experience for me. A lot of the people I know now are actually the same exact people I met through T-Prep, and we didn't even know we knew each other. But we started talking. We're like, wait a second, your name seems familiar. And sure enough, they were in one of the Zoom boxes. And yeah, that was one of the drawbacks for me, I think. Even though this is my first year, T-Prep was still online. And so it was difficult to kind of listen to Zoom for that many hours a day. So I think this next one is going to be in person, if I remember correctly. I think maybe Nicole can chime in. So I think that would be different. But yeah, I think it was an amazing way to also pre-study for your classes. So that's one habit that T-Prep taught me that is still really helpful. Like I'm still surprised, but people here do study in advance during winter break and summer break for their courses, which is super helpful. And then yeah, it's also been really helpful to meet different people. For example, a lot of Jacobs Hall staff visited at T-Prep and showed us the kind of a virtual demo of the makerspace. And now I'm in Jacobs Hall, and now I have a makers class, so you can go in there and prototype. So yeah, it's hard to find anything bad to say other than being on Zoom. It really offers you a lot of different things you can get out of it.
Yeah, and also, I think for me, I was in T-Prep 2 years ago, and I was the design assistant for T-Prep last summer. So during my year, we worked like on a project prototype for T-Prep. So what we did, like, I was with students from 2 different majors, if I can remember. So I had one civil and one mechanical engineering student in my group. So we actually are buddies up till like today. Last year when I was looking for housing, I came up here and I slept in one of their houses for like 3-4 days, and I had just met them in person for the first time. But like we actually learned together, built a project together, learn how to like develop a project from the bottom up. So that was really my highlight for T-Prep. And being a DA last year was a really good experience for me because I got to a DA means a design assistant, by the way. So I got to like help students who were actually working on their own projects, advising them, and that was really cool for me. So I would definitely recommend T-Prep.
Awesome. Well, thank you all. I'm going to go ahead and wrap us up. I think we got through all of the general questions. And I know you have 4 days of exams still ahead of you. So thank you all for your time. Thank you to our attendees for joining us. We have one more remote event, which is next week. It will be, I think, similar to this, but there'll be breakout rooms so that you can have more intimate conversations with students from your major, like these major specific questions you've been asking today. And that will be hosted by the Society for Women Engineers, but folks of all genders are invited. Other than that, I will be traveling this week and next week to Pasadena, Costa Mesa, San Diego, Sacramento, and Fresno. So if you're in any of those areas, maybe I'll see you in person. But I want to wish our panelists good luck with the rest of their finalists and wish everyone a really great afternoon and evening.